My name is Maddie Felice, and we'll be talking about the forensic application of bryology. So, forensic bryology is using the study of bryophytes to provide relationships between victims and suspects to the crime scenes. Like Taylor had mentioned before, there are around 25,000 different species of bryophytes, which is a nice reference when we're trying to identify bryophytes at the scene. And they are very useful in cases due to their ability to inhabit different environments, which includes ones that organisms and vascular plants cannot. Their fragments attach to clothing and other items really easily, and this even includes the broken pieces of bryophytes. We are still able to obtain and extract DNA from them, which allows us to identify it at the crime. The forensic application of bryology, we obviously can use it to link suspects and evidence to the crime scenes, but the most important one is that it can efficiently provide post-mortem intervals for the body. So biophytes recovered from human remains can help identify the time of death all by its own growth rate. And because they're able to inhabit environments that others cannot, environmental conditions do not affect the growth rate of biophytes. It just affects their density and length. So whatever growth rate they are at the time of the scene does let us know how long the body has been there. And the case that we took a look at to demonstrate biology, it was a case that they were trying to determine if it was homicide or suicide. So in Taipei, Taiwan, they discovered a male body that was found hanging in the woods. It was very clear from the scene that he had died due to the asphyxiation from his noose. However, there were no witnesses, and there did appear to be very little physical evidence, besides what appeared to be moss smeared on his wrists. So the moss was able to be collected, and they sent it over to a bryologist, who was able to determine that the moss on his wrists was an identical match to the moss growing from the tree branch that he was hanging from. So after extensive investigation and collecting further evidence and taking into consideration what the bryologist had came to the conclusion of, it was determined that the moss was probably transferred onto his wrist while himself was trying to tie the noose. So ultimately his death was ruled as suicide. And while we were looking at a lot of case studies, it was very interesting to see that this technique was able to rule something as a suicide rather than a homicide, based heavily on the biophytes that were collected at the scene.